G'day ladies and gentlemen, ScottyD here from the Australia's Tabletop Wargaming Network, and welcome in to the next installment in our series, How to Play Warhammer 40,000, 10th edition. Alrighty everyone, so in this video for our next installment in our How to Play Warhammer 40,000 10th edition series, we're going to continue to take a look at the core mechanics of the game, as well as how you're building your army list and the different ways to play Warhammer 40,000 by looking at both the core concepts of the game as well as the data sheets for the units that you will be fielding in your armies when you do play games of Warhammer 40,000. So we're just going to jump straight on into it by looking at the core concepts in this first half of the video, and there's quite a few that we're going to take a look at. Now, as a player, when you are playing games of Warhammer 40,000, you are going to be able to command an army of miniatures of Citadel models, or you purchase them from Games Workshop effectively, and the army is made up of units that you put together, that you create an army list up to a certain points limit, depending on the mission that you're going to play with your opponent. Now, a unit comprises of one or more models from the same data sheet. Friendly models are all models and units from the same army that you are using, and enemy models are all the models and units from the same army that your opponent is using on the tabletop. So that's the core of what your army is going to be all about. We did do a how to build an army list video, which if you haven't had a look at, highly recommend doing so to understand the list building process and what goes into building an army list. Next up, we're actually going to look at unit coherency, which has seen some changes between the 9th edition rule set that we've just come out of into 10th edition. Now, unit coherency is still within 2 inches horizontally and 5 inches vertically. However, the number of models for the different ranges of unit coherency has changed. If the unit size is between 2 and 6 models, each model needs to be within unit coherency of 1 or more models within that unit. However, if the unit itself numbers 7 or more models, then each model of that unit needs to be within a coherency of 2 or more models within that unit. So it means that the larger the unit, the more coherency you have to keep when you are playing your games. At the end of each player turn, if a unit has not maintained unit coherency, then the controlling player must remove models from the unit until it is in unit coherency once again. Now, after unit coherency, we're actually going to look at engagement range, which actually hasn't changed from 9th edition. Now, engagement range is considered to be 1 inch horizontally and 5 inches vertically when you are looking to get into close combat with enemy units. And when models are making a normal, advance, or fallback move, they can't actually physically move within engagement range of any enemy units, and we'll look more at those styles of moves when we get to our movement phase video. Any games of Warhammer 40,000 that you are playing should have a battlefield of scenery to create the area that the armies are actually fighting over. These pieces are commonly known as terrain features, or just terrain, to differentiate them from models that make up your army. Now, terrain has also got its own section of rules that we will look at covering in a future video as well. Now, the next aspect of the game is measuring distances. Distances in the game of Warhammer 40,000 use inches, and you'll be able to measure distances whenever you wish to do so during your game. This is colloquially known as pre-measuring, so you're able to measure your movement and range together. For example, if you want to see if you can reach a particular unit before moving a unit in such a way so that you're able to make the best tactical decisions with your units with as much knowledge as possible. Now, when you are measuring distances between models, you measure to the closest point on the bases from the model you're measuring from and the model you're measuring to, and if the model does not have a base, then you use the closest point of any part of the model. This has just been changed in the recent balanced data slate to include also vehicle holes, so you don't have to measure to the base of a vehicle. If it has one, you measure the closest point on that model as well. Now, if any rule says that a model or unit needs to be within a certain distance, it applies at any distance to the model that is not further than the specified distance. For example, within 1 inch means any distance that is not more than 1 inch away. However, if a rule specifies that a model or unit is to be wholly within a certain distance, then the entire base of all the models in that unit must be within range of that specified distance. Now, another aspect of the game is determining visibility, which in Warhammer 40,000 we do use true line of sight when you're looking from the position of one model to another, and generally you look from behind the model as well to see if it is able to see from its viewpoint. the model is considered to be visible if any part of a model that can be seen from any part of the observing model. So if you're trying to see if you can see an opposing model, if you can see any part of that model, you are able to see it with the model that's trying to look at it. Now, a unit is visible if one or more models from the unit are visible to the observing model. So in the same way, if one model is visible, the entire unit is visible. A model is considered to be fully visible if every part of another model is visible to the observing model without any other models or terrain features blocking visibility to any part of the model. Now, a unit itself is considered to be fully visible when every model in a unit is fully visible to an observing model, and with observing models being able to ignore other models in their own unit when determining visibility as well. Now, when you are playing Warhammer 40,000, dice are an integral part of playing the game, and it is the method in which you determine interactions between units or how far you move when making an advance move or a charge move during your game as well. The first part of rolling dice is that you can never re-roll a dice more than once, and if you are re-rolling multiple dice, such as for a charge move where you're rolling 2d6, you must re-roll all dice involved in the roll, not just one. The second is that any modifiers to dice results, they're actually applied to the dice after you make any re-rolls to those dice. And the third is that there are some rules in the game that will refer to unmodified dice. Then this is the result of the dice roll after re-rolls, but before modifiers are applied to the dice, so bear that in mind. The last one here is that if players are instructed to roll off, this is where both players roll a single d6, single six-sided dice, and the player who gets the highest result in the roll-off wins. If both players roll the same result, you roll again until a winner is determined. Now, the last part of the core concepts that we're going to be looking at is rule sequencing. You may find during your games of Warhammer 40,000 there are some rules that will be resolved at the same time. When this occurs during a battle round, the players whose turn it is gets to choose the order in which they are resolved. However, if a situation occurs before or after a battle round, or before the start of the game or at the end of the game, then players roll off and the winner gets to determine the order in which those rules are resolved. That basically covers the core concepts that you need to know when you're looking to play your games of Warhammer 40,000. And now we're going to jump into the second part of this video where we're going to be looking at the data sheets. We're going to have a couple of examples up on a screen for you guys as well. Now, data sheets are what house all the rules that you will make use of for each of your units in your army. And we're going to go through the data sheet from top to bottom, left to right, front to back. So the first thing in the top left-hand side of your data sheet is the name of the unit. And in this example, we've got the Space Marine Tactical Squad is our unit that we're using for our example data sheet here. Underneath the name of the unit, we have got the profile of the unit, which has got the following unit statistics. First up is M, which is movement. This shows in inches how far a unit is able to make a normal move or a fallback move in the movement phase. If it is a dash for the characteristic, then that model cannot move at all. The T is for toughness. This is how tough the unit is to either shooting or melee attacks when they are made against them. SV is known as save or armor save. This is the amount of protection that the unit's armor provides to them when they are facing incoming enemy fire or they're being engaged in close combat. W is for wounds. Now, this is the amount of damage that each model in a unit can take before they are destroyed. LD is for leadership, and this represents how courageous or self-controlled models are in the unit. In 10th edition of Warhammer 40,000, the lower the value, the better in this instance. Then the final characteristic is the new one for 10th edition, which is called OC, or objective control. This represents how effectively a unit is able to exert control over an objective. So for the tactical squad example that we've got, they have got a move characteristic of 6 inches, a toughness of 4, an armor save of 3+, 2 wounds per model, a leadership of 6+, and an objective control value of 2 per model as well. Now, below the main profile for the unit, we actually have got the ranged, and then following that, the melee weapons that contain the following characteristics as well. Weapon names and weapon keywords. Now, these are what the weapons are called that the unit is wielding or might be wielding, and if there are any words in brackets, these are known as weapon abilities that that weapon will have, and we'll cover those in a future video also. The range determines how far away a unit can be when engaging enemy units with that weapon. For melee weapons, however, it will always say melee. For the range, as you need to be within engagement range or close combat or melee range with an enemy unit to be able to use that weapon. A is for attacks. Now, this is the number of attacks that the weapon is able to make when it is being used. This can be either a set value of attacks, or it can also be a randomly determined number of attacks as well. The next one is BS or WS. This represents ballistic skill or weapon skill. This stat shows how proficient the models in the unit are at using the weapon that you're looking at. S is for strength. This represents how strong a weapon is at being able to damage an enemy unit, and generally the higher it is, the more likely it is to damage the foe. AP is for armor penetration. This represents the weapon's ability to cut through the enemy's armor that they are wearing. D is for damage. This is how much damage that the weapon does against an enemy unit if it successfully gets through the unit's armor. It can either be at a flat value, or it could be a D3 value or a D6 value, which represent a variable amount of damage, but generally that is on some of your stronger weapons as well. So for a tactical squad, we're going to look at one of their ranged weapon options and one of their melee weapon options to give you an idea of what those stat lines are all about. For ranged weapons, we have got the bolt gun, which has got a range of 24 inches. It makes 2 attacks, has a ballistic skill of 3+, a strength of 4, an AP of 0, and a damage characteristic of 1. For melee, we have got the AEST chainsword, which for range is melee only, makes 4 attacks when being used, has a weapon skill of 3+, a strength of 4, an AP of -1, and a damage of 1 as well. Next up, we're actually going to be looking at the abilities on the top right hand side of the datasheet. Now, this is where you'll find the abilities that the unit is able to make use of during their games. Now, this will include any core abilities they have, their faction ability, and any other specific unit abilities they are able to make use of. For our tactical squad, they have got the faction ability of Oaths of Moment and the unit specific ability of Tactical Flexibility, which allows a tactical squad to both shoot and make a charge move in a turn in which they have made a fallback move out of engagement range from an enemy unit. Now, when you look at the bottom of the front of your datasheet, you'll find both the generic keywords and your faction keywords. The generic keywords on the left are for the unit, which will describe the type of unit that they are and how they interact with some of the other rules in the game. So the faction keywords, on the other hand, denote the faction that they are a part of for the game. They can have more than one faction keyword, and we did cover a bit more information about this in our how to build an army list video as well. So for our tactical squad, it has got the generic keywords of infantry, battle line, grenades, Imperium, and tactical squad, and then the Adeptus Astartes faction keyword as well. Now, we're going to flip the datasheet over and we're going to look at the back, looking at the left-hand side, and you'll see the war gear options that the unit is able to take. Now, each option will tell you what that option is for and which weapon or weapons the models need to swap out for that option that they are looking to take. So for the tactical squad, we've got 2 options to swap out a Tactical Marines bolt gun for another weapon that is listed on the card in 2 different sections, and the tactical sergeant can swap out his both bolt pistol and bolt gun for 2 different other weapons on that list as well that he has specifically got on the other side. Now, on the right hand side of the data card itself on the back, it will tell you the unit composition for the unit in question, and it will tell you what they come equipped with base. A unit's composition might be a fixed number, or it could have a unit range of a minimum size unit and a maximum size unit, or it could have some optional sizes between a minimum and maximum value as well. Now, these are the squad sizes that you must take when you're choosing to field this unit in your army, and we've also covered this in the how to build an army list video as well, and the points video also. For the tactical squad, it starts off with 1 tactical sergeant and 9 tactical marines, and each of them come equipped with a bolt pistol, bolt gun, and close combat weapon. Now, on the right hand side of the back of any character unit cards, which we're going to pull up a Space Marine Captain to have a look at, it will also have a leader section. The leader section for these units will tell you what units the character unit is able to join during your games. For example, the captain for the Space Marines shows that he can join assault squads, command squads, tactical squads, and Vanguard veteran squads. And ladies and gentlemen, that covers all the different aspects of both the core concepts of the game of Warhammer 40,000, but also the data sheets for each of your units that you are wanting to field in your army list when you're constructing and playing your army. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, what I hope you have enjoyed this video in our Warhammer 40,000 10th edition How to Play series. I hope that it was insightful in a lot of the core mechanics of the game and how your data sheets look and how they function in terms of where the stats are, what the stats are about, and what they represent in the game, as well as the war gear and the ways leaders can join units and such as well. Now, if you do enjoy this content, ladies and gentlemen, and you have any feedback, feel free to leave us a comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave it with a like. And if you want to keep on catching more content like this from us here at the ATWN, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you're able to be notified as to when we are releasing more content here on the YouTube channel for not just this series, but for some of the other content that we do create as well. Now, if you do want to catch us live, feel free to go over to the Australis TWN Twitch channel, where we do stream consistently on Monday and Friday nights, where I do commission painting and general hobbying streams. We also do our tournament previews, the ITC South Pacific snapshots, and tournament coverage all over there at the moment as well. And so you can leave any feedback or ask any further questions there as well. But ladies and gentlemen, I thank each and every one of you for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.